I can hear it, can't you hear it? I think they can do it great. Personally, I like a lot of those. I mean, I have 6-year-old boys, so I know these films. And I got to say, I like a lot of those versions better than the original version.
I know you are, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Napoleon Dynamite. Mine is true. You are the man. But was there any point at which you're like, gee, I'm writing a song with a Beatle?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. What are you, crazy? No, I mean, it's a remarkable thing to me. I mean, here's something that you get to see. I got to see, I should say, not you. But we were doing an Imperial Bedroom, I think, and working at Air Studios with Jeff Emerick, who engineered Revolver and Sgt. Pepper. So one of the reasons we wanted to work with Jeff was because, he had so much depth of experience sonically. Once we had made all these records with Nick Lowe, I had taken a side trip to Nashville to make a record of my favorite country songs, and then we came back to a group of songs. I'm in the studio, giving ourselves the license to really look at the studio as more of a playground laboratory rather than somewhere where we just go in and as anxiously as possible record in the shortest amount of time. And there's some kids running around in the hallway. It's a multiple room studio, and his little kid comes running in, and then the mother comes in, and it's Linda McCartney, and I guess it's James. Or maybe it was Stella, I don't know. It's like one of, people that I now know as very, successful young women, and Paul was working down the hallway, and that was sort of something that happened over those couple of years, and that took a bit of getting used to, that we were, hey, Paul McCartney's down, and he's standing there, he's in there! And we then played a benefit show along with the Rock Pile and actually Robert Plant, which was, I think, Wings' last gig. So we saw Wings' last gig. We were on the bill.
This is the Concert for Cage,
yeah. In 1980. So around that time, turn of the 80s, our paths crossed. So, you never assume that anybody that you've admired as much as I admire Paul would know who you were, but he was very charming when we met. And yeah, like I say, his kids are running in and out of the studio. Can you keep those bloody McCartney kids out of the studio? And so... then I get a call, will I go down to his studio and write songs? Well, yes, of course, then you can't go. And, if that were a couch and this were a couch and this were a long table, it would just be like this. There was there was nothing more mystical about it than that. 2 guitars, a notepad. And I think Veronica was the second song that we wrote. I truthfully had written a lot of it when I took, it was one of 2 songs that we brought to the table, partly assembled. Let's see what happened if we sort of, you can probably guess what he wrote in this song. He made the chorus pop a lot more. And then, we got to work over the next couple of years, and we ended up writing 12 songs, a couple of real good ones, I think.
And some that ended up on his record, Flowers in the Jungle.
Yeah, but I was co-producing that record for a while, and we didn't see eye to eye about the way it sounded, because at that time he liked very, very elaborate productions, and I liked it very simple. But I think I persuaded him to pick the Hofner bass up again, because he wasn't using it at the time. I won't absolutely swear that it was my idea, but I remember saying, could you try that part on the Hofner, because it really wants to sound like that. And I can sort of understand it now. Now it's all of what I'm telling you is 20 years ago. That if you were to go up to somebody and say, that thing you did, can you just do that again? Of course, he was curious and wanted to hear like new things. And if you hear, even the record he just put out, he's always. His last record my wife played on, it was him singing the songs that he grew up with, songs from the 1920s. This record is songs where he's worked with all producers of the moment. I mean, this is the right way to be about music. Have all the experiences, don't just have the one. And if you've already written the catalogue he's written, of course it's going to be very, very tricky to go back and say, well, let's just do one that's just like that. Can we do, another fool on the hill, you know.
I am also with the walrus.
But it's getting much better. We
could do this.
Of course, when we sang together, because of my family being from Liverpool, and having some of that nasal sort of sound in my voice, and I can't sing as high as him. I sang below him in the same relationship as Lennon did, and once in a while it would get a little beatly. I go, "Whoa, that's a bit spooky," you know, like. But it was tremendously enjoyable, and the demos still are in the vault. And one day, he has talked about putting them out a couple of times, and we sat around and talked about doing something with them. But you know, when you're working like he is on all the different things, and I'm working on a bunch of things too, the moment to do it, well, one day it'll happen. Yeah, there's not a, it's not a sprint. You know.
Right. It's a marathon. And speaking of now, I feel like, how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing great.
We are?
Yeah, let's kick back.
All right.
I've got a couple of beers.
Double checking.
Three more. Just three more songs.
3 more. All right. Well,
Then
then.
a couple of questions.
Okay, and then.
All right. Excellent. Well, then we'll.
And then there'll be a written test.
Yes. Not like you. Then, to me, people talk about evolution in songwriting, but I feel like you have actually been sort of more restless than evolved. That sounds insulting, but you know what I mean. That you jumped around from a lot of different places, and this was a very different turn for you. This is one of my favorites too. It's called Jackson's Monk and Row. This is with the Brodsky Quartet from Juliet Letters.